the approach I'm going to share is a bit different to the approaches that have just been mentioned. So I'm working with Cumbria County Council, and I migrated their births, deaths and marriages section, and I'm in the process of migrating their highway section, but it's been 100% manual, so there's been no automation at all. So I just wanted to show you some of the tools I've been using to kind of manage that process. So what you're looking at here is Miro, which you may or may not have used before or seen, but it's basically it's like a big canvas that you can do multiple things with. I used to use a lot of spreadsheets when I was migrating content, but this was done completely without a single spreadsheet, which for me is like nirvana. I do not like them. So what you're looking at basically is a canvas of all my research that informed the decisions I made around what I was going to migrate. So I'll just briefly show you some of it. So the things that I've got on here are some of the user stories that I wrote, which informed whether the content I was creating was user focused. It contains research I did in other councils to see how they structured some of their births, deaths and marriages content and the terminology they were using. It also had some information about search, so what the site search was doing, how it performed in Google. This is a user journey. So this is a user journey I created for if someone was looking for registration offices, and it's basically a map of all the different routes into the site and how successful those routes were, so that I could see where the pain points were and where it was successful. It also included a fair bit of data. So one of the big benefits of this approach was working with stakeholders. So I worked this way with Croydon. I migrated a significant amount of their content using this method, and the big benefit of this is it's very visual. I find lots of stakeholders don't respond well to spreadsheets and just lines of data because they just can't understand what you're trying to tell them. Whereas because this is very visual, the stakeholders it was very easy for them to understand what I was trying to say. So here, instead of giving them a spreadsheet of data, I just gave them the top 10 data and told them that their top 10 pages accounted for 75% of all page views, that kind of stuff that they, were never aware of. Some kind of key findings that I summarized here. Then I mapped out the IA. So this was the original IA, which I mapped out here. And then I mapped that across to the new IA. So this is, so instead of creating the IA in a spreadsheet, I create it visually here as a map. And I was able to map the current pages against the new pages. The colors here, these are the content types in LocalGov Drupal. So all the different colors, they're the different content types I was moving that content into. And then as I went, I was adding little notes to sort of remind myself things I needed to check. As I was working on the pages, I turned them red. So red meant, once the text went red, it meant that the page was created. And then I used Trello to manage the sign-off process with the stakeholders. So that is what I did before. And then this is the one, so it's a bit bigger, this one. This is the one I'm currently working on. So it's a bit more, it's a bit broader. So you can see there's multiple user journeys here. And the reason these are useful, again, is when I'm talking to stakeholders, where you see red is where it's a failure. So it's very easy for them to see if someone does a site search, the page is coming up number 61, or if they're going into flooding here, you can see if they're going to environment, they can't find the flooding pages. So it's really easy for stakeholders to see and for me to see where the problems lie. Again, I've done really similar things. I've mapped out the data. So this is all the data for the section. So it's in order so that it's very easy for the stakeholders to see which are the most popular pages. Things like summarizing the data up here. So things like telling them that the site is 45% desktop, 55% mobile and tablet. That kind of information most stakeholders are never aware of. Then just, yeah, generally mapping all my findings. Again, stuff about search. These are all my user stories. These are all the contacts I'm working with. And basically this is this is the only place I put all my information, so it's like a one-stop shop for everything I'm doing. I have worked on an automated process as well at Croydon, because we did it half automated, half manual. I think if you have the time and the resources to do it this way, it is a really good way to do it, because it allows you to really get deep into the data and deep into the user needs. When we migrated the content automatically at Croydon, it was mainly done from a time restriction, because we didn't have the time. We had a deadline, and so the content was just pulled straight into the site, and we had to retrospectively fix it. So there wasn't really any time to work out what the new structure would be, and there wasn't really any time to speak to the stakeholders properly and work out what they wanted removing and what we should be rewriting. So this process is more time consuming, because obviously it takes a while to put these kind of boards together. But I think the benefit, so this is the burst emoji section that was created. When I created this, because a lot of the work was done up front, it was easier to have discussions with the stakeholders if they were questioning some of the decisions, because they could see that what I was doing wasn't based on just what I thought. It was based on data, it was based on research, it was based on what I kind of knew from other sections and what had worked, and what the users were looking for as well, because most stakeholders have no idea what users are coming to the site for, and they might have a vague idea about how many inquiries they get into the customer center, but they have no idea really what the users are trying to find on the site. So it was a really good way of bringing stakeholders along on the journey with me. So I've been using this for about 2 years now, this approach, and it is pretty successful. But it is time consuming, but I think it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, and I just want to, it is definitely worth it. I mean, the scale of the challenge in Cumbria is pretty significant. Our website is enormous, and the last thing I want to do is just migrate it all over. We've got a really small web team who, through no fault of their own really, have just turned into a very reactive service. They just stick stuff on the website. That just is what they do. They don't do content design. They just put updates on the website, and it's grown arms and legs. We used to have 200 content editors in the authority who were just doing what the hell they wanted. It's massive. So we really need people to really think about what it is that they're using the website for and how they're using it, and taking this approach is starting to get some of that narrative in Cumbria. So yes, it is more time consuming. Yes, we could go down an automated route, and we may have to do that for some of our sections, but I really want to show how it can be done differently, and how we can get my team to actually see that it's more than just putting an update up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and hopefully from a maintenance point of view going forward, because we would have significantly reduced the volume of content and significantly reduced the number of PDFs and significantly reduced just how much content there is to maintain, doing the work up front will hopefully mean that the maintenance of it is easier.
Yeah,
1 minute left, Ben.
Just to say as well that we weren't able to do a lot of user research in the burst section because we just didn't have the budget for it. Yeah. This time around for highways, we're going to do a lot more. So for example, tree testing of the IA. So Ben suggested where pages should live, what pages should be called, and we can test that now because we've better resource to be able to do that.